In an age before true crime podcasts and Netflix thrillers, the Paris Morgue gave the public real-life drama, mystery, crime, death, and sometimes justice, all behind a glass wall. It reflected a time when public interest in the macabre mingled with civic duty. In the heart of 19th century Paris, just steps from the majestic Notre-Dame Cathedral, crowds gathered daily, but not for worship and not for art. They came to stare at the dead. The Paris Morgue was established in 1804, but it was the move to a public building in 1864 that gave it its chilling fame. Located right behind Notre-Dame, it became one of the strangest tourist attractions in Europe. Here's how it worked. Unclaimed bodies, often victims of murder, suicide, or the Seine, were displayed behind glass for all to see. The bodies were first undressed, inspected, and frozen. They were then placed on angled marble slabs behind glass panels with dripping iced water initially used to keep them cool. The Paris Morgue was open daily from dawn until 6 p.m. After 1882, this method was replaced by a refrigeration system. The Paris newspapers fueled public fascination by publishing sensationalized accounts of the victims displayed at the morgue. Each body remained on display for 3 days, after which a photograph was taken or a wax cast created. They were often naked, but covered with a sheet from the waist down. The deceased's clothing was hung nearby. Green curtains framed the glass enclosure, which displayed 2 rows of corpses, an arrangement frequently likened to a stage set for a theatrical performance. Decapitated or limbless bodies, tiny children only added to the morbid desire to see the bodies up close. In 1886, a 4-year-old girl was found dead with a mysterious bruise on her hand. The story sparked such intense curiosity that an enormous crowd gathered outside the Paris Morgue. The morgue was encircled by a restless mob, all eager to catch a glimpse of the tiny child in her little dress. She came to be known as the Enfant de la Rue du Verbois and was seen by over 150,000 people. In 1895, when an 18-month-old child and a 3-year-old were pulled from the Seine just days apart, the crowds trying to enter the morgue grew so large and chaotic that police had to intervene. In the morgue, it was madness. Men shoved and jostled for the best vantage point. Young women looked on with sympathy. Disturbingly, parents hoisted their small children up to get a clearer view of the dead children. The woman cut into 2 pieces, discovered in the Seine in 1876, became a sensation. Once her real remains decayed too much for display, a wax version took her place, keeping the crowds coming. The hope was that someone would recognize them. But instead of serving justice, the morgue turned into a form of entertainment. People lined up daily. At its peak, the Paris Morgue drew over 1 million visitors a year, earning a spot in tourist guidebooks right alongside the Eiffel Tower and the catacombs. Some came out of curiosity, others brought their children. Here's a description from the 1867 novel Thérèse Raquin by the French author Émile Zola, and I quote, "The morgue is a sight within reach of everybody, and one to which passers-by, rich and poor alike, treat themselves. The door stands open and all are free to enter. There are admirers of the scene who go out of their way so as not to miss one of these performances of death. If the slabs have nothing on them, visitors leave the building disappointed, feeling as if they had been cheated and murmuring between their teeth. But when they are fairly well occupied, people crowd in front of them and treat themselves to cheap emotions. They express horror, they joke, they applaud or whistle, as at the theatre, and withdraw satisfied, declaring the morgue a success on that particular day." End of quote. Vendors sold snacks outside like it was a day at the fair. The bodies were laid out on marble slabs. Naked from the waist up, they were preserved in a chilled room. Their clothes and belongings were neatly displayed nearby to help with identification. But for most visitors, it wasn't about closure. It was about the thrill. Not everyone was impressed. A visiting Harvard University student left the Paris Morgue in horror and later penned this harsh account of his 1885 visit. And I quote, "An eager throng is surging to and fro in front of a long, low window, Men are crowding and elbowing each other. Old hags are pointing toward the glass and croaking to one another. Pretty women are gazing with white faces of pity, but with nonetheless thirsty greediness, upon some fascinating spectacle. Little children are being held aloft in strong arms, that they too may see the dreadful thing, and they do see, and they toss their tiny, wavering arms aloft and crow right gleefully. The objects of interest are 4 corpses, which are lying upon iron frameworks behind the glass, their heads propped high, their jaws agape, and their eyes staring in all the grim majesty of death, as they gaze unflinchingly upon the guests who are thronging to this grisly reception." End of quote. In 1885, Sigmund Freud described it as a place where, and I quote, "I don't think they know the meaning of shame or fear. The women no less than the men crowd round nudities as much as they do round corpses in the morgue." End of quote. At its peak, the morgue drew up to 40,000 visitors a day. Imagine that, tens of thousands lining up just to look at the dead. And yes, some murderers were caught thanks to the morgue, but many just gawked. Morbid curiosity had become a daily pastime. The morgue even inspired literature. Writers like Émile Zola visited and described the experience in chilling detail. It influenced early horror and crime fiction. But all spectacles come to an end. In 1907, public viewings were shut down. Officials finally decided that putting corpses on display for fun was maybe a bit much. Today, the Paris Morgue is gone, but it remains one of the most bizarre footnotes in history, a place where death and curiosity met behind glass. Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy creepy history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. All illustrations and sketches of the morgue come from Wikimedia Commons. Thank you for watching.